Tanse Netute Pierre Wheatley, Nisagasun, Opasquac, Uchanina. Tawa, welcome to APTN National News. The third week of the inquest into Aisha Hudson's death continued in Winnipeg. Chris Butler, the first expert witness, took to the stand Thursday to testify. Julia Ross attended.
Aisha Hudson was a 16-year-old girl shot and killed by Constable Kyle Pradnuk on April 8, 2020, following a liquor store robbery and high-speed pursuits. Chris Butler, an expert witness in police use of force training, and risk assessments, was the only witness who testified on Thursday. He said the Independent Investigation Unit of Manitoba, the IIU, did not complete a traffic reconstruction investigation. Butler says the reconstruction uses a vehicle's computer data to assess steering wheel and braking inputs and acceleration speeds. And without the information from the investigation, we are left with no concrete answers to what the vehicle was doing. Butler said the lack of the traffic reconstruction is concerning because whenever there is an incident where death or bodily harm is experienced, the only way to fully understand important details of the event is to know what the vehicle involved was doing. Butler also said Pradnuk's actions would be consistent with proper police practices. However, when asked if there are any frailties in the assumptions that Butler based his report on, Butler said there were. The inquest is now adjourned until next week. Butler was the first expert witness to testify during the inquest. Julia Ross, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
The principal of an elementary school in Fort Frances, Ontario, has been charged with child luring by provincial police. 53-year-old Shane Beckett is alleged to have communicated over the internet with a child he believed to be under the age 16 for the purposes of committing a sexual assault, according to court records. The alleged communications happened between February 9th to the 13th. Beckett was the principal of Robert Moore School at the time of his arrest earlier this week. He's been released on bail and his next court date is April 2nd. None of the charges have been proven in court. A spokesperson for the Rainy River School District says counselors are available at the school for students and staff. Fort Frances is 360 kilometers east of Winnipeg. Beckett started his teaching career in nearby Onigaming First Nation. The first-degree murder trial of a 24-year-old man accused of killing a 20-year-old Anishinaabe woman from the Saging First Nation continues in Winnipeg this week. A framed photo of Makaylah Gerard Rusin is carried out of the courthouse by some family that have been inside for the first-degree murder trial of Josh Benoit for allegedly killing her back on August 25, 2022. Benoit is pleading not guilty in this judge-alone trial. Over 9 days, they have sat through the testimony of 19 witnesses called by the Crown. In court on Thursday, there were arguments over the admissibility of some photos presented by the Crown as evidence. They are photos from red light cameras that show Benoit's car near Makaylah's residence in Winnipeg and of his car leaving the city heading towards Steinbach, a small town just 50 kilometers southeast of Winnipeg. They were taken the same day it's alleged Benoit killed her. The judge is expected to decide whether or not they will be admissible next week. Last week, RCMP officers testified they responded to a 911 call on August 27, 2022, to which the caller indicated Benoit had committed a homicide at his mother's home in Steinbach. That testimony was backed by Benoit's father, who also told the court last week that he was the one to call 911, saying he had seen a body in his son's trunk after helping him with a flat tire. When RCMP arrived at Benoit's mom's home, he had fled in his vehicle. RCMP chased and arrested him, and in the process, his car started on fire. RCMP told court Benoit set it on fire himself. There was no body in the car at the time. Makaylah wasn't found until August 28 on a remote ATV trail about 50 kilometers south of Steinbach. Her remains were in a deep storage tote container. As well, video surveillance from the Canadian Tire in Steinbach from August 23rd, 2 days before Makaylah was reported missing. RCMP testified last week that Benoit was seen buying items such as cement mix, a baseball bat, as well as a bin that appeared to be like the one Makaylah was found in. The Crown says the materials prove beyond a reasonable doubt Benoit's actions were intentional. Defense is questioning whether or not the RCMP followed protocols when obtaining the materials. The trial continues next week when the defense is expected to present their case. A Native American-run encampment sits across from an Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, detention center. The center has a history of detaining Native Americans, as more than 1,600 Dakota were imprisoned at the site after the U.S.-Dakota War of 1862. And as Savannah Craig reports, a Dakota woman is using the camp to help heal after being imprisoned by ICE in the detention center in January.
What?
When we would go to the bathroom, we would be led around in our shackles on our feet and on our arms.
Sophie Watso spent 48 hours inside the Whipple Detention Center.
It's a concentration camp in there.
That's how this Metawakan Dakota woman explains her detention by Immigration and Customs agents, better known as ICE. Now she's back with her loved ones. She was detained in Minneapolis on January 14th. That's when the violence began.
Put me on top of the glass that they just broke, and they ripped my dog from my arms, and put me in a vehicle by my neck, trying to get me to sit down.
She was detained over a kilometer away from Fort Snelling. This is the same site where 1,600 Dakota people were imprisoned following the U.S.-Dakota War of 1862.
On my way being transferred to Fort Snelling, I sang a prayer song, one of the only prayer songs that I know fully by heart. And the prayer is asking for help, expressing my will to live. And I knew that my ancestors were where I was going at Fort Snelling. And so I wanted to pray to them, and I wanted to greet them in a good way. And I really, really needed them to hear me. And I know that they did.
Now Watso is finding community and healing in a space that's not so far away from the detention center.
Well, we are in the process of getting this bison hide ready for stretching and tanning.
Community members have been donating supplies to the camp.
This is my first time handling bison in these last few days. And it feels really good. It feels like I'm reconnecting, to something that was already in me.
Here on the encampment grounds, people are gathered by the fire, but not far behind them is Whipple Detention Center. Encampment participant Zachary White is from Leech Lake Reservation. He's hoping the encampment will spark dialogue with the state and the federal government.
ICE was the last straw. They come in here. I watched them terrorize my neighbors. I watched all these people come together and stand up against them.
Erica Crazy Hawk is from the Crow Creek Sioux tribe. She's part of establishing the camp. She says the trauma of the state taking her people is in her blood memory.
When these things started coming, it kind of shook up a lot of, the people here that, especially the Dakota exiled, being forced out of our lands, being taken, from our teepees and our bark lodges like that.
We got soup most of the time.
For Watso, the encampment is an important stand against ICE and the detainment of community members.
We're in prayer. This is not a protest camp, it's a prayer camp. And the things that we pray for are for the safety of those people in there, everybody who's detained, kidnapped, and not only in that building, but in this whole country.
Savannah Craig, APTN National News, Minneapolis, Minnesota.
And we check in with Kim Sullivan over at Nouvelles Nationales right after the break. Plus, here's a sneak peek at what's coming from British Columbia.
Tansei, I'm Tina House. I have a story for you about a former judge and first Indigenous Lieutenant Governor here in BC. That's coming up soon on APTN National News.
Come on in, Bitigwe. Indigenous Services Minister Mandy Galmasti was in Nunavut in northern Quebec Thursday afternoon, where she announced close to $230 million in federal funding for initiatives that benefit Inuit people living in northern Canada. APTN's Fraser Needham has that story.
Speaking at a press conference in Kuujjuaq, Galmasti said the new funding will help provide stability for northern programming.
Today's announcements are about making sure that families and communities have the support that they need now, and they have the support while they're continuing to work on solutions that are strengthened by the Inuit of Nunavut.
The The government is providing $115 million to renew funding for the Inuit Child First Initiative until March 2027, $50 million for the new Inuit Nunangat University, $30 million for the Nutrition North Canada subsidy, and $27 million over 5 years to eliminate tuberculosis in Inuit Nunangat. Maggie Emdluck, the chairperson of the Kativik Regional Government, echoed Galmasty's sentiments.
It's very good to hear that efforts and funding are being made towards our youth and children in the region. As you may know, majority of our population is children and youth. So there will be efforts made, more efforts made again to address, for the future of our population.
However, Nunavut MP Lori Idlow questioned why this funding wasn't part of the Carney government's budget released last fall. She also said the funding for the Inuit Child First Initiative won't be enough to address the current backlog of applications.
I have current constituents that have reached out to me who, after the program was extended, are still waiting for responses from Indigenous Services Canada on their current ICFI applications. They've been waiting 8 months, 9 months for their applications. And what about these applicants?
Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
And it's Friday, and that means we check in with Nouvelles Nationale's host, Kim Sullivan, to see what's in their broadcast tonight. Kim, you have an update on that incident at Quebec's National Assembly a few weeks ago.
Yes, viewers may recall that we reported on the Encampment Nation of Manawan's chief being excluded from public hearings on Bill 1, that's our Constitution bill, because he had an Eagle staff with him. Well, the regional chief of Assembly of First Nations Quebec Labrador requested a meeting with the president of the National Assembly to rectify that situation, and that meeting happened midweek.
Speaking of that meeting, I hear that you had spoke with him after it.
We did, and we will share that report with our viewers tonight.
That's awesome. And so quickly, I guess we reported earlier this week about the sentencing of two brothers who left the body of an Indigenous woman dead on their sofa for 6 months. You actually spoke with support workers who are dedicated to Indigenous peoples and assisted the family.
Crazy story, TR, and these people are not only present in the search of the victim, Lassie Tekiapik, but they also brought the family through the whole court process. It's heartbreaking, but it is a helpful story, and we're happy to share that tonight.
All right, and this next one here, I need a little bit of help. I was given the notes, Oriental, Occidental, and Indigenous equals mind-blowing.
Can you guess what kind of interview comes at the end of the show with those 3 words?
Could it be racing or maybe something to do with beating?
Oh, I love beating. But no, they come together in a beautiful concert. It explores the heart of the North. You have these chorus and then this ensemble that does Oriental music, and throat singer Nina Segalowitz will be there joining them. And she's in studio to talk about this beautiful journey that comes together and will immerse people into the world of Northern people.
I was way off on that one, but I just must say before we go here, beautiful, beautiful earrings. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you so much. Bye.
We now want to tell you about this week's web poll questions. Over on our website, we ask, would you be concerned for your safety if you won a large amount of money in the lottery? The options are yes, no, and unsure. Our second question was, what are your thoughts on gun control in Canada? Your options are the gun control laws are sufficient, the gun control laws are too strict, or the gun control laws are not enough, or are you unsure? And our third question was, given the current state of international politics, should the government prioritize military spending over social issues like housing and addressing the drug crisis? Your options are, of course, to focus on the military, focus on social issues, or are you unsure? You can go to our website, aptnnews.ca/poll to cast your ballot. Now a look at a story APTN is working on, taking you to where Canadian troops are flexing their skills with hands-on training in the harshest conditions. APTN Charlotte Moore-Jacobs has this preview.
In unforgiving -50, the Canadian military is proving they can detect, deter, and if required, defend against threats. From Edzo, Northwest Territories to Cambridge Bay, Nunavut. APTN takes you behind the scenes on how Operation Nanook demonstrates the nation's capability and capacity to protect Arctic sovereignty. And learn how new impressive military dollars will revamp the North over the next decade.
In an all-domain operation covering the maritime environment, the air environment, the land environment, space, and cyber. On top of it, we're doing this with other government departments, other government agencies.
That's coming up soon on APTN National News.
Wow, welcome back. Starting on the East Coast, St. John's -2, Charlottetown -4. Over to Kuujjuaq -19, Happy Valley Goose Bay -10. Chibougamau is at -12, Saguenay -9. Sault Ste. Marie +1, Sarnia 4. Over to Big Trout Lake -18, Kapuskasing -2. Churchill -20, Puckatawagan -22. Barons River -15, Brandon -17. Over to North Battleford -27, Regina -22. Up to Stony Rapids -30, Buffalo Narrows -27. Moving to the west, High Level -19, Peace River -16. Down to Edmonton -11, Calgary -9. Over to Campbell River 3 degrees, Vancouver +7. East Lake -19, Smithers -10. All the way up to Old Crow -30, Mayo -25. Wati -30, Fort Simpson -27. Up there in Tuktoyaktuk -29, Paulatuk -36. Cambridge Bay -30, Chesterfield -29. Resolute -33, and Iqaluit -19. Our next guest is the executive producer of the series Taken on APTN. Season 5, which is now halfway through its current season, is about, well, it is a true crime documentary series that focuses on missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, men, boys, and the LGBTQ2S+ community in Canada. This week's latest episode focuses on a missing woman in New Brunswick. Kristen Najikote recently spoke to Danae Robinson on what this week's episode is about and what viewers can expect for this season.
Danae Robinson, thanks so much for speaking with us again. You're currently halfway through season 5 of Taken. Could you talk to us about the latest episode that is about the disappearance of Erin Brooks in New Brunswick? I understand her disappearance is now the subject of a homicide case.
Yes, absolutely. So Erin Brooks has been missing from Fredericton, New Brunswick. She was last seen at a smoke shop in Sitansik-Swolostic First Nation, and her family is hoping for closure. They want answers on where Erin is, and they would love to bring her home and have that closure for her family and her community.
And Danae, what kind of feedback have you had so far about the season from viewers and the families who you interviewed? What have they been saying?
Taken has been very unique this season. Of course, Taken season 5, the current season that we're on, is a reboot. The last season aired a few years ago at the start of the national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And, hopefully we were hoping that there wouldn't have to be more seasons of Taken, and that, changes would be more viable, and that we would see a way in how these cases are handled, or violence towards Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit folk. Unfortunately, but fortunately, we're back. And this season, we've had a lot of positive feedback from community, from family members. The way we conduct Taken is a lot like community work. I do have a background working in non-for-profit organizations. A lot of folks that we hired to help interact with families and reach out also have that experience as well. So we used a lot of trauma-based informed practices, and we incorporate ceremony. And I think that reflects in the show. And I think that the families and communities and the allies and law enforcement and the people that are doing the work really responded to that. And I think it comes out in the show. And we do have a lot of people just reaching out to the show, asking if we could tell their family story or just sharing a bit about their experiences, and we respond to each and every single message that comes in, and people are grateful for that, and we just continue to hope doing this work in a good way.
Very important work that you all are doing. Since season 1 up to season 5, you have told 60 stories. That may seem like a lot, but I know there are still so many missing person cases across North America. Do you believe Taken can continue its coverage for the future and tell these important stories?
I believe we can. As I said, unfortunately, but fortunately, Taken is back. From what I've heard from previous seasons, this is the most outreach that we've gotten from community asking to share their loved ones' stories. And we will continue to do this work as long as it's needed and as long as it's wanted by community, of course.
And Danae, after the Taken team has told this many stories, has any missing person cases been solved since then? And could you say that the show had a hand in helping with any of those cases?
Taken is unique in the way that the purpose of the show is it's not true crime. It's about helping solve these cases. Lisa Meaches, our host, of course, repeats throughout the show, if you have any information out there, please go to our website. And from our website, there is a link to Crime Stoppers where you could submit tips if people want to be anonymous. You don't have to directly go to police. You could go to Crime Stoppers, and any sort of tip or information that folks have that are watching is looked at. And so I think Taken is helping get these stories out there, and in a way that makes it accessible for people to outreach if they do have any information.
And finally, Danae, what can we expect for the remainder of the season 5 here?
We of course have more stories to share, and more stories of loved ones and families and communities just hoping to bring closure and to share their loved one's story to the public.
Danae Robinson is the executive producer of the series Taken, now in its 5th season on APTN. Danae, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And that's your afternoon news for this Friday, February 20th. Some good news. Canada, the male team Canada just won 3-2, and they're heading to the gold medal game on Sunday. Way to go. I'm Tiara Wheatley. It's been a pleasure to be here with me. Join me again at 6 p.m. Eastern for our evening newscast. Until then, from all of us at APTN to all of you, Egasi, Ki Dam, Kinanaska Mitanawa.